This is one of your main searchers, and the way that you make your scales more in your favor. The problem with the deck it does have is your scales are usually on the lower end of the spectrum. So this allows you to target the other pendulum scale for the Abyss Actor monster and make it scale 9, which allows you to summon your strongest monsters. Once per turn, he can gain up to 100 attack for each Abyss Actor card you control. It's kind of irrelevant, but more importantly, that if he's destroyed by a card effect, you can actually search your deck for an Abyss Actor card. Really important. So he's your Rhoda, your Scale Fixer, and all that good stuff. 3 copies of Abyss Actor Superstar. This is one of your main monsters as well. More importantly, he's the one that lets you set up your Abyss scripts in the grave, so that way you can recur them with other card effects. Once per turn, you contribute an Abyss Actor monster and just immediately set one of those Abyss scripts from the graveyard to the field. And this allows you to set up the destruction plays to get the plussing. Also, his monster effect is when he's normal or special summon. Opponent spell and trap cards can't be activated, so it pretty much essentially lets you special summon without impediment. And he could also send one directly from the deck. Spell card directly from your deck to the graveyard, but it's sent to the graveyard at the end phase. But you're probably going to activate that Abyss Script anyway, so it's basically a rota for your spells, which is fantastic. We all know Abyss Actor Curtain Raiser, used to get free summons. If it's in the scale and you have no monsters, you can just special summon it out. More importantly, he has an effect with the deck that you could send an Abyss Script card from the deck directly to the graveyard, and then you get to add a face-up Abyss Script, Abyss Actor Pendulum monster from your extra deck to your hand. So he recurs your monster resources, he special summons himself for extenders, and he gets to set up your graveyard. Really fantastic. 3 copies of Bella Madonna. This is your Rhoda. She is also your most important low scale. Once per turn, you can pay 1,000 life points to search for any Abyss Actor monster. However, you can only special summon Abyss monsters after that activation. So you go with your plays, you plop her on board, you pay your life points, you get your card, and then you can go freely do whatever you want from there. She can special summon herself if one of your Abyss monsters are destroyed. So from the hand, she special summons. So she acts like a good wall with the 2,500 defense. She gains some stats for each Abyss Script in the graveyard, but it's kind of irrelevant because that usually doesn't end up being the case. And her other effect is you could actually special summon from your deck a level 4 lower Abyss Actor. So she further extends herself there. Really good card, and that's part of the new support, which makes the deck much more playable. 3 copies of Abyss Actor Extras. Another extender, if your opponent controls a monster and this is in the scale, special summon it out. But you can only special summon Abyss Actors after that. Its normal monster is effect is you could tribute this card, and then from the Pendulum, you can tribute this card from an Abyss Actor card, and then oh frick, I always forget. Tribute this card, place a face-up Abyss Actor Pendulum monster from your deck into the Pendulum zone, but you can't special summon anything or use effects other than Abyss Actor. So it's just some setup, fodder for Electromite, extender, and really good card in general. 3 copies of the newer support, Abyss Actor Comic Relief. So the deck had a gimmick of having your opponent destroy your back row and you getting bonus effects, but there was no real way to facilitate that. This helps with that. Basically, this card acts like a creature swap from the scale. You could force your opponent to swap a monster with you. Essentially, you would want to swap one of your Abyss Actor monster, this card, so you'll have this in scale, you'll have this on board, and then you'll swap it, and its monster effect will activate. During the standby phase, when control is switched, it basically forces your opponent to destroy a face down card you control, but the owner of the card gets to destroy the target. So since you originally control this and it goes to your opponent, you get to choose the card that you set, which will pop one of the cards that you intend to for the situation. So this enables the gimmick, and it's really helpful for that. The other benefit is it is your high scale. Again, there's not many of them, so this being an 8 is really beneficial. 1 copy of Evil Heal. This is just a big beater. You can only bring this out if you have Wild Hope because it is a level 8, so you don't want to run more than one. It is searchable with some of your Abyss Actor monsters, so you just use it as a big beefy beater. Basically, it cuts your opponent's attack of one monster by 1,000 for every Abyss Actor monster you control. So essentially, if you Pendulum summon 2 to 3 or whatever, you can cut something by 3,000. This swings for 3,000. It's just a big beater, does damage. And in a going second kind of deck, this helps out. One copy of Sassy Rookie. It's just protection for your monsters. If a Abyss Actor monster would be destroyed by battle, it would not be, and that's once per turn. Its other effect is if your opponent tries to destroy it by battle or card effect, it's not destroyed, so it has its own protection. And when it's finally destroyed, you get to actually pop a level 1 or level 4 or lower monster from your opponent's side of the field. Doesn't come up too much, but it's nice to trade off and have yourself a body. So if you're forced to go first after game 1 because you went second, you can use this on either in the scale or on the field to give yourself a little bit of meat on the board to protect you from getting OTK'd. And now for the Degenerate Engines, we have 3 Dark Worms and the Donut. We already know what this does. Special summons itself in the graveyard, or if you normal summon it, you get to search the Donut. It gives you some link fodder for Electromite, gives you a low scale to use for your Pendulum monsters, and that's pretty much it for that. Chronograph, again, with the Time Gazer, just extra summon fodder, make your scale, pop himself, special summon Time Gazer Magician, and then link it away for Electromite. Really important to run 3 ofs. You don't want to use your normal summon if you can't help it, especially if you're going second. You want to have as many resources as possible and recurring resources, so this is really nice to fuel your extra deck. And that's it for the monsters. We're going to go into the spells. 3 copies of Rise of the Abyss King. This card is nuts. This card destroys cards on your opponent's side of the field equal to the number of face-up attack position Pendulum Abyss Actors. So the reason why this card is nuts is because 1, it's searchable. 2, you can set it and then activate it immediately. And 3, it's just really good hard removal. If your opponent's going first and they make a big board, you don't have to do too much effort to make this card valuable. You can just set 2 scales, Pendulum summon 3 monsters, activate this, and then your opponent's forced to react to it. And with cards like Superstar and Current Riser, you can reoccur this repeatedly. So use it, they'll negate it. You can get it out with Superstar, activate it again, not once per turn. This card is busted. The set effect, if it's set and it's destroyed, you get to add any 2 Abyss Actor monsters or Abyss Actor cards from your deck. So it's a double Rhoda. Usually you're using it to pop cards, but it has a nice second effect if you whiff for some reason. 1 copy of Abyss Script Opening Ceremony. This card is pretty good. It gives you life points, 500 for each Abyss Actor monster you control. But more importantly, if this set card is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, or any effect that your opponent facilitates, you get to draw up to you have 5 cards. So really good recursion. Again, combos off with the Fink Comic Relief, so you're out of resources, no problem. You force your opponent to pop this, so you get a whole full hand of things. And if you're going if you're going second, you can't kill them, and you're able to get the Comic Relief off. Having a hand of drawing your side deck cards after the first turn is pretty good, and just replenishing yourself in total. So this card is fantastic. Could help you win in time, too. It's gonna be like that. 1 copy of Abyss Entertainment. This lets you recur your Abyss Actor cards by tributing Abyss Actor monsters. So you can reuse copies of Abyss Actor, Abyss Script Opening Ceremony, or Rise of the Abyss King. You can do this twice per turn, so really good recursion. And its other effect is, if your opponent pops it, it essentially is soul charge. You can special summon any amount of Abyss Actors from the deck, so it's fantastic. This is a really good card, but you don't want to run more than 1 because it really doesn't do anything unless you have Abyss Scripts in graveyard. And setting it's not really that optional going second. Now, to help with that gimmick of popping your own stuff, they got a field spell. This lets you add a Abyss Script card from your deck to your hand, which is nice because you can search for things like Rise of the Abyss King by revealing a different Abyss Actor monster and Abyss Script. So it requires some setup, but it's usually not that hard, especially since your Abyss Scripts are searchable. Its second effect is you can make one of your opponent's activated monster's effects destroy one of your back row instead. That becomes the new effect. So this facilitates the effects of the Abyss Grips to pop your own cards, which lets you plus hard. If you want to run copies of Waken the Dragon in the deck as well for a more go first build, that's also an option, but I find it to be a little gimmicky now. There's too much outs with Dingirsu and all that, so not really that important. But it's a nice tech. 2 copies of Terraform. We want to see that field spell. It's important. And 2 Pendulum Halt. I feel like the deck just, although it has a lot of resource searching, you still kind of need that little bit of extra boost if you're forced to normal summon or if you're forced to pendulum summon early. So this can help out to make hands a little less bricky as long as you can get the 3 monsters in the extra deck. But it works pretty well, and if you're going second, you kind of want to see as many resources as possible to push through any board your opponent has. So I like the card a lot. Onto the extra deck, copy of Electromite. We all know how good it is in all Pendulum decks. It's mandatory. Wish we had more than one. But also pops your cards, which gives you bonus effects. It's just synergy left, right, and center. Underclock Taker. Since this is a going second kind of deck, this helps you swing for game. You can cut the attack of one of your opponent's monsters, and it helps with that greatly. It's just a really good link too. It always has been, honestly. Wee Witch's Apprentice. If you need link arrows pointing down on turn 2, or maybe you can't go for that turn 3 or turn 2. This gives you extra damage because all your monsters are dark, and it gives you a little bit of recursion. It's just a solid link 2 to use. Link Karibo, good defensive card for going first. You can make it with Abyss Actor. What are their names? The level 1 extras. So just a good defensive card. Always nice to have if you're running level 1s. Zephyr Metaltron. This is a staple usually for most Pendulum decks. When you make the Odd Eyes Vortex Dragon, play, you link away Electromite and the Odd Eyes Absolute Dragon, and then you get a free Vortex Dragon when you go into this. And it makes it awkward for your opponent to deal with the board, so just a really good card. Can't complain. The deck lacks a boss monster and outs to harder to get rid of monsters, so Borolo Dragon fixes that. Everybody loves it, and glad it's cheap. We're going to just toss in the Vortex Dragon since we already talked about it, and the Absolute. So Superstars, you're level 7. You go into this, you make your Vortex, so on and so forth. Really good card for any Pendulum deck. Naruto, we run 1 just in case we end up with double Chronograph Sorcerer, and they're just bodies on board, and we don't want to turn them into something else, so having a negate is always handy. And then finally, your rank 4s. There's a lot of them, and it's because the deck does have a lot of level 4s, so this is really important to have your toolboxes. Exciton Knight, again, going second, kind of helps really well for that playstyle. Tornado Dragon, pop cards for going first. Supreme King, Dark Rebellion to go second and hit for a lot of damage. And Abyss Dweller to deal with the meta, because we don't like cards activating in graveyard. So this card is really great for that. Now for Super Poly targets, because we do side deck Super Poly. You already know what these do. It's just help you to get rid of problematic monsters your opponent has. And they're really good for the deck as well, because they help you swing for game. Onto the side deck. My locals has a lot of combo players, so we're running the Drone Lockbird. I feel like with the Go Second Pendulum deck, you really have a problem like dealing with your opponent. Ash doesn't do enough. Like, it's a 1-for-1 trade, but Droll stops a lot of decks in their tracks. So you kind of need that really, really heavy plus-minus advantage against your opponent. And again, with everybody playing combo decks, this is just really good. So 3 copies has to be done. 2 copies of Prankatops. Really good card going second, obviously. This is a going second deck, so when your opponent forces you to go, when they want to go first really bad, this is really good to help break boards. Staple, honestly, in today's meta. 3 Lancia. We don't banish anything, so this doesn't hurt us one bit, but it hurts your opponent a lot. So stops all Thunder Dragon, stops all Salamangre plays, Orcust, all that stuff. 2 Lava Golem. We don't want to run Sphere mode because it's a little problematic, and we want to be able to swing for game. Lava Golem is way better for this fact because yes, it's 3,000 attack, but one of your Abyss monsters, the level 8, can cut the attack of Lava Golem to nothing. So getting over it's not a problem. You don't want to rely on your normal summon sometimes, so that's a sacrifice that you're willing to make. And it's just really good overall in general. This is mandatory to deal with a lot of problematic big boards. Super Poly, we already discussed this. Really good for getting rid of problematic monsters when you don't have the Lava Golem. And I find Red Reboot to be a really good card with Pendulum decks. My reason being is because your opponent, or at least in this meta currently, it's a lot of spell trap removal. You know, Altergeist, Salamangreat, Roar, Orcus, Crescendo, Rage, all that stuff just really hurts Pendulums, especially Rage. Rage will pop your scales, and then you're pretty much bones from there. So instead of running Twin Twisters where you have to commit resources, Red Reboot just kind of deals with that back row that your opponent would normally use against you. Now, you would think that they're going to run Twin Twisters, and you're right because you're a Pendulum deck, but for those outs, you have things like Prankatops to pop the back row. You can just vomit out your monsters regardless and just swing. So Red Reboot really deals with the problems of those monsters. With the back row that decks normally run in their main deck, and can help you swing for that game damage because Abyss Actors have the ability to hit hard. They have good attack manipulation, so this just lets you guarantee that. But that's the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, please leave it in the comments below. Thank you.